And we're now live. We're live across our Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter accounts. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's decided to jump on this live stream today. We'll give it a minute or so to see if anyone else logs in. But while we do that, we'll just introduce ourselves. So I'm Mitch. I'm the marketing manager here at Inventory Hive, and I'm glad to say that I'll be joined by Alex, because Alex is I'm sure he'll explain what he does in a second, but it feeds nicely onto our topic of discussion today. So Alex,
It
go for it. Just
it
tell us what you do.
it does indeed, Mitch. Obviously, the
Yeah.
topic of discussion today is our build to rent attributes and how we can help increase the bottom line for
Yeah.
operators, providers. But me specifically, I am head of our build to rent team here at Inventory Hive. So a large part of what I do is talking with operators and providers, understanding their processes and essentially best way to implement the system
Yeah.
on their purpose built sites.
Absolutely. That's brilliant stuff. We came up with this idea last week, didn't we, Alex? Because we went to the UKAA Build to Rent Expo at the Business Design Centre in London.
Fantastic. It was
And I was just about
fantastic.
to say to you, how did you find the show? Obviously, the amount of people that came onto our stand and goes, Alex, I love your LinkedIn photos.
if
Is
you if you've joined us from LinkedIn, thank you for coming along.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. I get I'll be honest, the opportunity, and I will call it that. It's a privilege to be able to go to so many new built sites
yeah,
and help with their onboarding, their implementation of Inventory Hive. Obviously, while I'm there, I take that opportunity to grab a few pictures, and it's nice for the majority of my connections are all related within the property industry, obviously. So obviously they get an insight into these build to rent buildings, their processes, and obviously if they can take something away from that, great. But yeah, the UKA Expo was, I think I would go as far as to say it's my favourite one that I've done so far.
yeah,
Obviously we've done quite a few. All of them have been good, but this one, I don't know if it was the post COVID era now, and this is the
yes,
first one where everybody is somewhat more relaxed about it. Obviously, we still have to be conscious that COVID is very much still around. But I think it was the first expo that we've done since everybody's been more relaxed about it,
yeah,
probably appreciating the fact that we can be around each other a lot
yes.
more.
It was good actually, because it's like you're not worrying about face masks or your 2 meter rules or sanitizing every 30 seconds. But what obviously I was at the show as well with you, Alex, and it was just good to see so many people talking and putting faces to emails and Microsoft Teams meetings. And you might not necessarily get hundreds and hundreds and leads from the expo, but it's more like I think you touched on it before about revisiting existing customers as well as having really good conversations with potential new ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of like-minded people all in the same room, and generally speaking, within the build-to-rent industry, everybody's got this one shared goal.
Yes.
Obviously, you've got different providers doing different processes and whatnot, but ultimately, everybody in the build-to-rent industry wants to better and improve the industry, make it more
Yeah.
solid, make it a better experience for the renter, essentially,
Yeah.
which is obviously key. So to have everybody all in one room with that one shared vision is quite powerful as well from the
Yeah.
UKA.
It was a really good atmosphere in there, as well as especially with the after drinks as well, which was a nice touch. So
Yeah,
um, yeah.
absolutely, and I think it was a really good event, and it was a nice one for Dave Butler, who obviously retired, well, semi-retired at
Yes.
the end of it as well. I think it was a nice event for him to depart on as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure the team have got it handled moving forward, definitely, but
Yeah.
it was a nice way to say
Yeah.
farewell to some extent.
Brilliant. So what we're going to discuss today is Alex will just explain a little bit as to why quite a few build to rent providers use us and why it helps improve their bottom line, because obviously improving the bottom line is one of the main goals for businesses out there these days. If anyone's got any
Ju-
questions or anything, just pop them in the comments and we'll revisit those. So Alex, I suppose the first question I've got for you is obviously you onboard quite a few build to rent providers and clients. Why do they tend to come on board, and how does it improve the bottom line exactly?
I mean, generally, there's a few reasons why operators would use Inventory Hive anyway. Resident satisfaction being one. Obviously, it gives them a more control over the data and their time frames. But equally, Mitch, like you said, the bottom line, so to speak. I mean, obviously, this is location dependent. But if
Yeah,
you were to look to outsource to a third party company, which obviously that is an option if time isn't on your side, or necessarily if you don't have the staff on site potentially as well, you don't have the team availability on site to help produce the reports, then outsourcing is always a good way to go. We work with many different independent inventory clerks as well.
yeah,
However, if you were to look at the cost of outsourcing, and again, this is going to be location dependent. If we took a block of 100 units, just as an example, of
yeah.
250 units, just as an example. I'm just going to share my screen quickly
Cool.
because I do have um, a slide on this, which somewhat mirrors what I'm about to say. Is that sharing my screen, Mitch? Just to
Yeah,
confirm.
you're. I
Yeah.
can see that now.
So if anybody wants a copy of this, feel free to get in touch. Obviously, you can email us info@inventoryhive.co.uk, or myself directly, alexg@inventoryhive.co.uk. But if we were to take a typical example of 250 units within one block, that's a rough average of the most common number. If you had an independent clerk charging, say, £100 per report, you're talking £25,000 just on your move-ins.
Yeah.
That's not even including your move outs. So within 1 year, you could potentially be looking at £50,000 on outsourced reports,
Yes.
potentially. Obviously, if you could negotiate a smaller fee, because obviously you're giving them an increased workload. So let's say, take the example of £65 per report, you're still looking at £32,000 for the year across a
Yeah.
check in and check out. That doesn't include any form of interim inspection either, which you can complete on Inventory Hive. And again, if it comes down to you're outsourcing to a third party for your reports, you're sort of at the mercy of their diary as well.
Mm.
If you've got it
It,
all in house using your team, you can click your fingers and go and do a report if you need to.
that's a good point, because obviously with all the units, they're all in one postcode or location, literally, and it's not like they have to travel massive distances to go and do these reports. They can almost just go one by one as such. So
Yeah.
with that, I suppose doing it in house has its own time saving features, because obviously you're already at the location anyway.
Yeah, exactly. What a lot of operators tend to do, and obviously this is dependent between operators and their staffing levels. A lot will use their on-site RSA teams, for example, so resident service advisors or concierge team. Other sites use their maintenance teams to facilitate these. Obviously, that's a personal process, different, that will vary between operators.
Yeah,
But what it enables you to do using Inventory Hive anyway, if at the drop of a hat you get instruction that that resident wants to move in that afternoon, you can go and produce that report.
yeah,
The way that Inventory Hive works is we leverage off templates quite heavily, meaning there's a lot of similarities in build to rent buildings. So you've got the same
yeah,
sink, same tap, same color scheme generally. Um, so you can almost click apply to all in a
yes.
sense.
Like you
Um,
could basically not copy and paste as such, but transfer it all over and duplicate it
yeah,
across the other units in that building.
exactly. We've got the facilities that basically does copy and paste, but it's a couple of clicks of a button.
Yeah,
But with that as well, you've got the option to do your interim or midterm inspections, however you refer to them as. Me and Mitch have done a live stream on this before with somewhat of a LinkedIn live stream double act now, aren't we, mate?
yeah,
But
yeah,
generally speaking, if you're going to bring the process in house and not outsource that, you've then got the ability to essentially protect the asset a little bit further, because
mm,
you'll know, or operators will know, that catching something early in terms of a maintenance point is going to save them a lot of money in the long run.
yeah,
Because if you can fix something when it's a small call out charge, and a quick little, maybe you just need to tighten a screw. I'm obviously just
yes,
spitballing there,
yeah,
but just a few screws need tightening, a little bit of WD-40, and away you go. That's
yeah,
how you can tell I work with software and
yeah, yeah,
not machinery. But if that is essentially what you can monitor early and catch that early. That £50 repair, if it had been left and outsourced to the third party, it takes weeks to get them in potentially. It could have got a lot worse, and then it becomes a lot more costly.
Yeah,
And I'd also say as well, just on that note, and this doesn't necessarily specifically transfer to a bottom line, but it's another opportunity of a customer touch point or
yeah.
resident touch point.
That
If you're
I
going
suppose.
in to produce an interim,
Yeah, it's not necessarily like obviously we're talking about the bottom line here, but also I think resident satisfaction is crucial as well. Because if you're maintaining that positive relationship with the resident, then it's likely they'll probably still continue renting or
which improves your bottom line. So
exactly. Yeah,
it all comes back to it. Whether it be a direct, I can see that X equals Y, that
yeah,
one's a little bit of a grey area, obviously. But I think it definitely does. Doing your interims on the system as well, that gives you the opportunity to go to the unit and have a friendly conversation with said resident. As you've said, Mitch, they're more likely to stay longer as
yeah,
a result, meaning you've got less void periods. I mean, obviously, some sites they've got a waiting list as long as their arm, which
yeah,
means that they've never voided for too long. But if a unit's vacant for 2 weeks, you've still lost 2 weeks worth
yeah.
of rent. So there is always that element to consider.
Nice stuff. Nice stuff. So generally, Alex, when um someone wants to use Inventory Hive, what's your typical onboarding process? Because we don't typically give them the software and leave them to it. You ensure everything's set up and ready for them to make sure they get the best from things.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I'm able to post so much on LinkedIn from
Yeah,
various different sites, to be honest, because
y-
I go to these sites and help implement the system, give a little bit of training with the team whilst I'm there. A lot of it can be done via Teams in terms of the training and screen shares. Obviously, we've got a great support team as well behind us
yeah,
at Inventory Hive who can assist along the way. But the typical process from my standpoint would be obviously an initial conversation, data capturing, find out the wants and the needs of that site because every site is different at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah,
Every operator wants to have their own internal processes. They don't need to be mirroring exactly what somebody else does. So I always like to have that conversation just to learn a little bit more about the way that company operates, just so that I can tailor the experience a little bit better.
yeah,
Um, but then from there, you obviously have your initial setup, onboarding, the training that goes with it. When I go to site, I would produce templates for the team because obviously we understand that time isn't always on their side. So
yeah,
with a lease up, they want to focus on getting people in, not
yeah,
worrying about the admin and condition. If that can be outsourced to us, for example, we can help get that done and dusted. Equally, we know the system like the back of our hand, or at least I'd like to think
mm,
so. I don't get me wrong, Mitch. I don't know about you. I still learn something new about our software every
yeah.
single day.
Same as me, mate. Yeah,
But as a main focus, we're able to go in and very not quickly, but we're able to produce the template reports. Whereas somebody
yeah,
learning the system for the first time, it might take them a little bit longer, um, due to obviously the proficiency levels.
yeah,
So we're able to take on that burden, if you like, meaning it's off the shoulders of those on site. They can get the lease up focused on and get people get residents in, which is obviously key.
exactly. That's the main target, isn't it? I know when you go and visit these sites, um, how modern the starting to like the furniture and furnishings that are in each part, each unit and space is it's really coming along. And I keep on reading articles as well about the fast growth of the build to rent market, and I suppose that's
It's
down,
exploded, to be
yeah,
honest.
and that's probably down to operators using a lot more prop tech as such. Like I know some people integrate with fixed flow and to help maintain them the maintenance issues. So I think that space is really booming, like you said, and it's only going to get bigger as well.
Yeah, I think a large portion of it is the offering that build to rent providers have got within their spaces. So like you've got
Yeah,
your gyms on site in many sites, co-working areas. So yes, you're working from home, but you're out of your physical home. So the
yes,
apartment itself, you're able to go to a co-working area to give you that little bit of separation between work and home balance, even though you've not had to commute,
yeah,
for example. And also on that note, a lot of build to rent buildings are on main commuter lines and
Yeah,
whatnot anyway. So there is that element.
yeah,
So I think that's been one of the many reasons why build to rent's been so
yeah,
popular in the past couple of years. And
yeah,
I read a study last week that says the units have increased something like 21% for next year as well.
yeah,
So that's always important to consider, that it's
yeah.
going to get bigger and bigger, I think.
Brilliant. And in the last few weeks as well, we've added a bit more value to Image Hive with our custom reports feature. And I know you had a lot of feedback from quite a few build to rent operators where obviously they do their check in, check out interim visits on Image Hive, but also they need the facility to do other reports as well, like fire door inspections or any other reports they want to create. And now they can do that. And I understand you've had some good feedback on that already.
Yeah, very very positive, Mitch. To be fair, so from a compliance point of view, obviously as a build to rent operator, they need to be checking fire doors of every apartment every 6 months, I think it is.
Yeah,
And there's like a standardised 10-point check that they need to carry out. A lot of providers, and this is where it flicks back to our increasing bottom line.
yeah,
A lot of other providers have got a different software for that, because we've now incorporated what we're calling custom reports, whereby the user can generate their own reports on the system. We've put on some templates, so like your fire door inspections, for example, and there's also the element of building management. And just to echo the same sort of concept that I mentioned with the interim inspections,
yeah,
you're able to obviously identify issues early. And again, let me just share my screen. I've got a snapshot of one of the examples now. I built this for a client last week actually,
yeah,
and just put in some examples of what you might be able to do. So here you can see the sort of pressure levels of the water on level 8, level 7, level 6. And it's just encouraging the teams to actually go through and check these areas. So
yeah,
is the shut-off valve in the open position, for example? And then if I scroll down, then that's audit trailed. So you can
yeah,
see here that the completion. So if ever you were to need to evidence for maybe insurance purposes, or if something does break and you need to back up the fact that you've been maintaining it, or at least
yeah,
checking it regularly, you can do that through Inventory Hive as well. So it's almost becoming a one-stop shop in terms of reporting.
yeah.
Um,
Like having everything under one roof, because it means no multiple logins, or like, oh, I've got to log into here to do this, I've got to log into here to do that. You forget
yeah,
passwords
X,
where,
Y, Z, and
yeah,
Inventory Hive software.
yeah,
Then you're saving money on subscriptions from that way as well.
yeah,
Which obviously in turn increases bottom line, bringing it back to the main point of today's live stream.
yeah. That's I think that's a good way to end it on, really, because it's not just the in-house or outsourcing side of things from the bottom line. There's almost like some hidden costs and hidden ways to increase your bottom line as well that you probably don't realize, like human or man hours and staff costs, etc. So I think it perfectly summarizes today. Alex, I think you've been absolutely spot on. If anyone's got any questions for Alex afterwards, or myself, just drop us an email at info@imagehive.co.uk. There's not many build to rent sites that don't use us anymore. I remember when we went to the UKAA, Alex, we was walking down Wembley Way, and it's mad to see the amount of sites that are built there now, and that's just in one
There's a
North London location.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Wembley area in general, around the Wembley Park, that's quite inspiring, especially if you're involved in the build to rent industry.
Yeah,
It is quite an awing place, if I'm honest. But that's because now I was saying the other day, I get so excited over just seeing like bricks on top of each other, because that's
yeah,
ultimately all the building
yeah,
is. And I start getting really excited by it now. The build to rent world has got me, mate, to
yeah.
be honest with you.
It's got you.
So yeah.
And if anyone wants to take a look at Alex's photos that he regularly takes when he does site visits, then have a look at his LinkedIn posts as well. So he gets quite a lot of traction on those these days. So
Well,
yeah,
that's
so
because I'll be honest, mate. The sites do the work for me. Then,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
you just take
All
the
I
credit, but yeah,
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 exactly. But no,
but
I think it's been a great little 20-minute session. Obviously, we
yeah,
always keep these sort of light and just little nuggets of information. But if anybody does want to discuss inventory hive in any more detail, or if you're a current customer or client that's noticed something on here that you currently don't do and want to learn more, then obviously my email's on the screen now. So
Yeah.
just drop me a link.
Yeah. Perfect, guys. Appreciate everyone's time. And like I said, just get in touch if you want any more questions, and we're always here to help. So again, thanks to Alex, and we'll catch up with you all soon.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.